Hello everyone in CIS-115. This is part 2 of the strings lecture, and that's right here on our week 10 module 5 checklist, strings lecture and activity. And we went through this material in part 1 all the way down to let's see, all the way down to the indexing portion. So this is where we're picking up in part 2 on string indexing. And so this is helpful to this little table is helpful to think about. If we have a string that is hello, there are several ways that we could get to that. Okay, now up here in the lecture they set that string up, and then they print, you notice the variable that refers to the word hello is actually called spam, is the name of the variable. So you can see here that we could index and get to the letters in that string, whatever that variable name is. We could get to the letters using a positive index. That means that we start on the left-hand side and work our way over to the right. That's positive indexing. Or we could start here at the end and work our way back using negative indexing. So let's play with that a little bit. We'll go to Tawny and we can work with this a little bit. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that variable again, spam, and we'll put that string hello in it. Okay. And so if I wanted to get to the first letter in that string, which the first letter is an capital H, let's see if I can make the font size a little bit bigger here. Okay, doesn't really want me to. Looks like Control++. There, that got it a little bit larger. Okay, so if we wanted to get to the capital H, then we could do this. I'll print it so that you can see what comes out. Spam, square bracket, 0. That's always, if we're using positive indexing, then the capital H would be 0, because you can see right here positive index of 0. So you just basically write the numbers underneath whatever's in the string, and that would tell you what character you're getting to. Just remember, if you're doing positive indexing, the positive index starts at a 0. We start counting at a 0. If you're using negative indexing, we start counting at a -1. So let's go back to Tawny and actually run that, and you'll see that we get an H out. Now I could have done that with negative indexing if I wanted to. For some reason it'd be harder, but if I said negative indexing, then the O is a -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. I should be able to do a -5 there and still get the H. And you see I did. Okay? So you can do positive indexing or negative indexing. And indexing is just letting us get to a letter in that string. Now, one nice thing about this negative indexing is we don't have to know how long the word is if we want to get this last letter in it. the last letter in the word is always a -1. It doesn't matter how big it is. For instance, if I did this, okay, and put some other stuff in there, the O is the last character in that string is always at an index of -1. See, I'm still getting the O out. Same way, the first letter in the string, first character in the string is always 0, regardless of how long it is. Okay, first character is always 0. And that's because we started counting at 0. Okay, so that's indexing, and not a whole lot to say about indexing except right here. If you try to tell Python to give you something that doesn't exist, then it will blow. And so, for instance, here, if this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so the valid index, the last one, is 8, and you can see that's getting me the O out. If I try to do a 9 here, we're going to get an error. See what happened? Index is out of range. String index is out of range. Okay? So key takeaways, again, the last letter in the string is always a -1. The first letter in a string is always at an index of positive index of 0. Okay? So that's string indexing. And next, let's talk about the topic that always gives folks you've got to really put your thinking cap on to do slicing. So let's talk about slicing. Slicing lets us get to letters. Let's see if I've got. I'm looking through the example here, the lecture, and really this is all that we've got right here. So we'll work with that, both slicing out positive and slicing out negative. So first off, let's slice out the 2 L's. Let's slice out the 2 L's out of our string hello. Okay, so the way we use string slicing is, let me fix my string back the way it was there. Okay, you have a colon in there, like so, inside these square brackets. Okay, and the first part is where we start slicing. Okay, and the last part is we stop one before that number. So where do we want to start if we want to get these 2 L's out? We want to start at an index of 2. You see where I'm getting the 2 from. Okay, so I'm going to put a 2 right here on the left hand side of the colon. We want to get this second L, and I told you have to go 1 beyond it. So let's put a 4 in there and see if we get that out, if we're thinking right. Okay, so let's clear this and run it. Did I get the 2 L's out? I think what gives folks such a hard time with this is where we start. We actually started right here at 2, okay? But in order to get that second L, I had to put a 4 in there because it stops 1 before that, okay? So that's string slicing to get something out of the middle, okay? If we wanted to get the HE in hello here, could you slice that out? Okay, we want the HE. So the H is at 0. So we put 0. we want the E, so we have to go one beyond it. That means we'll have to put a 2 there. So if we go back here and change that to 2, that should get us the HE in hello. Okay, and you see it did. Here's one neat thing about it. If you're wanting to start at the left-hand side, you can save yourself some typing and just leave the 0 out completely. And you see you still get HE there. So that's kind of a shorthand way. It works the same going from the left or the right. Let's say if I wanted the LO, the last 2 letters here, L and O, okay? Here's how I could get that with string slicing, okay? If I leave this out right here, okay, that's saying start at the very end, okay? And I want to get the L, so I think I need to go one beyond it. So let's try a -3 here and see what comes out. Oops, going from the left, you'll notice that if I'm slicing from the left, I actually can just do this. So there's another little gotcha with string slicing, is that if you're coming from the right, you go one beyond. If you're coming from the left, if you're coming from the left, you go one beyond. If you're coming from the right, you go exactly where you want to stop. Okay? Now, I couldn't have put a 0 here, because if I put a 0 in, you see, I put a 0 in there and it got this empty space. Okay? So that's not going to work. Okay? Could I have done this? Look what happened when I put the -1 in here. You see what I'm getting? I'm missing the O. So the only way to get that is what we did right here. We'll leave this, if you're coming from the right and you want everything on the right up to a character, you have to leave this empty right here. Okay? So that's slicing down here. Okay? And this is talking about the shorthand. So let's try some of the code lab items on slicing and see how that works for us. Okay? So in the previous part 1, we have done some of these already. Okay? Let's see if strings 2 has indexing and slicing. So we'll warm up with a little indexing first. Okay, we'll do this first one, 51,840. It says, so it wants us to get the S out of Smith, and it's in a variable called name. So name square bracket, and what's the first character always? 0, right? And a square bracket. So you can see that gets us the first letter in that string that's inside this variable name. So we'll go down and do the last one here. First one and the last one. Okay. Assume that name has got a string in it. Write an expression whose value is the last character of name. So it gives us an example. If name, the variable name, had Blair in it, they want the R. Well, you remember we could get that out with just name square bracket -1, right? That's always the last character in the string. We just talked about that in the lecture. All right, let's go down and look at slicing. This is where it gets a little bit harder, but not too hard. Write an expression whose value is the string that's the first 4 characters in the string variable s. So s square bracket, right? Okay, they said the first 4 characters. So we talked about the first character when you're coming from the left is always 0. We could just leave that 0 out and put a colon there. And if we want the first 4 characters, if we go back to our little example here in the lecture, the first 4 characters, if we start at 0, we need to go 1 beyond it. So 0, 1, 2, 3, we'd need to put a 4 there so that we're 1 beyond that index. So back to Code Lab here. I'm thinking I need this. Okay. So I left the 0 out, and you can see that it's happy with that. If it makes you feel better putting the 0 in there, then by all means, it'll be happy with it this way or with the 0 out. Okay. We'll go down and do the last one here. Okay. So assume that we've got name as our variable. Okay, we'll go ahead and put that down here. Name, and then we're going to be doing some kind of slicing, so I'll go ahead and put my square brackets and maybe my colon in there. Okay, it says write an expression whose value is the last character of name. Well, actually, this is not really slicing at all. It's just indexing. Okay. We'll go jump up and see if one of these is a little bit, this one. Okay. Assume that word is a variable. Word, square bracket, and a square bracket. Okay. Word is a variable containing, they want the last 3. The last 3. So if word has biggest in it, they want est. So we know we're going to have our colon in here. And we said if we want the last, you remember we couldn't put anything over here? Remember when we were just talking about that? So if I want to get the last 3, then if we go back and look here, okay, if I'm sitting right here and I want the last 3, then it would be a -3 because we actually tell it where we want to stop when we're coming from the right. So we don't have to go 1 beyond. So if we come back here, -3, that should get it for us. So that's string slicing. Good luck with that. It's helpful to draw it out so that you know what the negative indexes are, what the positive indexes are. Just take whatever string they're giving you and write this out like this, and it may help you figure out how to slice these things out. So let me see if we're done with that particular part of the lecture, and it looks like we are. We did all the slicing topics there. Okay, so one last lecture this week, and it will be coming up next where we're talking about string formatting. And we've done some of this in the past, but we'll get real deep into string formatting. So good luck with string slicing.